At the beginning, we see our main protagonist whose name is Yogairai, currently on a school trip riding the coach, but he has fallen asleep. While sleeping, Yogairai is in a dream about his past, where we see a younger version of himself walking in a corridor of a secret underground facility where he was raised as a smelly lab rat just like the kids from Stranger Things. We see bullets flying in all directions, but my bro is like Neo from The Matrix and doesn't give a single shit about these bullets, and he starts calling out to his foster caretaker, who he calls his mother. She is known as Miss Saka, and Yogairai is super mad right now, as someone has taken his mother hostage while pointing a gun at her. At this moment, his mom gets worried and tells Yogairai to stay back, while saying she's sorry to the boy. At this moment, the person with the gun starts to make fun of the 11-looking Stranger Things nerd and tells him he's nothing but a worthless little orphan who has nothing left now. Just before the thug pulls the trigger, suddenly Yogairai looks at the culprit's disgusting, ugly face and uses a special instant death ability, which eliminates the thug's life without Yogairai even touching him at all. This shocks his mother, Miss Saka, and just then the anime switches scenes back to the bus journey. And here a girl named Tamacha Donanura is shouting at Yogairai and tells him to wake the F up as the bus they are riding is currently being ice-skate off into a strange world. But Yogairai still fails to wake up. Moments after, Yogairai finally awakens and asks Tamacha what the hell happened while he was asleep, and she yells his face again and asks Yogairai how he was just sleeping through one of the most tragic events in human history. Right then, Yogairai realizes that he's in a different universe, as some crazy dragon-type thing is currently attacking their school bus, and many of the students have already been eliminated by the mythical creature. Tamacha tells him that the wyvern or dragon thing is ridiculously powerful, and ever since they reincarnated, it has been taking out students one by one. After that, Yogairai finds whatever he can to scare the creature away. So he picks up a random microphone and dashes it at the creature, but obviously it didn't do jack to the wyvern, and it only made the dragon get extremely mad at Yogairai and was about to end their ice-sky careers in seconds as it charges up a fireball in its mouth. All while Tamacha hugs onto Yogairai, for dear life, squeezing her melons against his body. But just as it was going to blast them like Daenerys Stormborn, Yogairai simply looks at the dumb dragon right in the eye. And within a second, the giant overpowered creature drops to the floor and has been eradicated from its own world by this scrawny Stranger Things kid from Japan. After, he tells Tamacha that she owes him some cheeks for saving her life. And after he plays some Super Mario like an absolute boss and has nothing to worry about. After that, Tamacha tells Yogairai that if he doesn't put away the Game Boy, she won't let him squeeze her soft melons ever again. So he puts it away, and she starts to explain what the hell happened to their school trip. Here, Tamacha tells Yogairai that while the bus was heading through a tunnel, as soon as they came out the other end, the whole scenery changed, and they arrived at a beautiful meadow. Some random, rude, and very entitled fairy goddess named Cian appeared on the bus and welcomed them all to her world, which pisses off the school's headmaster. And as soon as he smelt Cian's hand, he vanished into thin air. She warns everyone on the bus that her hand will make any one of them disappear like she's wielding the Thanos gauntlet, and that if they don't listen, she will make another person smell her disgusting hands and see if they can take her stench. After that, she starts to troll the entire class on the bus and tells them all that she is an SSS rank level mage and the most overpowered goddess on the island, and that her anime power level is over 9,000 just as a pop culture reference joke. But no one even laughed, which annoyed the goddess Cian. And she told them it would be wise for them to laugh at her jokes from now on, otherwise they won't last very long in this world. After, she calls them all a bunch of disgusting muggles that possess no kind of magical power, and that after being ice-skate, it is forbidden to be in her world without having magic, as the whole point of this strange world is to level up and to test each student and to take on the strongest creatures with their magic to see who will become worthy of being her successor. Just then, she made everyone on the bus glow up along with a holographic stat screen, and here just tells them that the games will begin shortly as their first test is to defeat the mighty godly dragon, which nobody is able to ever defeat before. But Tamacha complains to the goddess, saying that she doesn't even have a stat screen, and she also isn't glowing like the rest of the students. Tamacha notices how a few others are also not glowing like the bratty popular girl Shinzaki, a boy called Ku, and of course Yogairai, who is fast asleep during the whole Ice Sky event, and RMC has no clue he has been taken to a completely new world. One of the girls tells the entire class that the dragon is approaching shortly, and the dragon seems to be over level 100, making it 100 times more powerful than these students. So they get scared and ask the goddess to reincarnate them back to Japan. However, the annoying school jock of the class named Yakim who thinks he's the Justin Bieber of Japan, steps up to the class and tells them they have no choice but to eliminate the dragon and complete their first test to become a first-class mage, which is all he wants to do, especially as Yakim has been gifted with the general class, giving him powerful strength and abilities even at level 1. After his speech, all the gifted individuals step off the bus to wait for the dragon encounter and ultimately slay the beast to complete the first Ice Sky test. However, the General Yakim tells the 4 weirdo muggles who have not been blessed with any magic to stay on the bus, as they can't help defeat anything in this world, and he blocks off the door to the bus. All the other students who were gifted make their way to the forest and wait for the overpowered dragon to arrive. At this moment, the dragon appears, but as we know, Yogairai uses his insanely unfair cheat skill, which lets him basically one-punch man anything using only his eyes, making him more OP than Saitama himself. After seeing the beast fall to the ground like a weakly ranked peasant, Tamacha asks Yogairai if it was him who killed the dragon like that without even touching it, but he denies this and says that he had nothing to do with it and tells Tamacha that he doesn't even have any magical power as he's a lonely loser nerd, so how could a guy like him defeat a dragon boss? Just then, she remembers how Yogairai is the most worthless student who just sleeps all day, so what he is saying must be true. When the two of them step off the bus, they notice something flying in the air above, and it turns out to be their classmates who came back to see if the dragon had eliminated the students with no magic. But to their surprise, the dragon was dead already, and they spot the brat, the annoying Tamacha, and the sleepyhead Yogairai down below. After they land on the ground, they tell Yogairai and Tamacha about their cool magical Ice Sky skills, and each of these boys has a specific role to play. The chubby fatso named Damon is a healer, Higashida is a powerful fire-blazing hero, and Yakim is a necromancer. Damon is mad that Tamacha is alive as he can't troll her and turn her into a zombie using his healing magic, and combined with the necromancer, he could have raised her back from the dead. But here, the hero guy explains how he only came back to use the necromancer ability on Tamacha to clap her cheeks out after raising her from the dead, as she would never let him touch her in class or go near him, so maybe her zombie version would let him. But here, Tamacha tells the hero to ___ off, calling him the ugliest person in the class. So he displays how strong he is compared to her, showing off his insane fireball ability and threatening Tamacha, requesting to let him smell her feet. Otherwise, he will eliminate both of them. But right then, Yogairai tells the dumb hero boy that he's actually weaker than he thinks, and points his scrubby chubby finger at him and tells him to drop dead. They all start bursting out laughing and think Yogairai is just trying to troll them. But a few seconds later, the fireball hero guy falls down instantly and has been eliminated by Yogairai, without him even touching him, shocking the 2 other dweebs as they witness their friend perish into nothing and finally shutting his big mouth once and for all. His necromancer friend starts crying about his loss, and so he asks the fatty healer to heal the hero dude, but Yogairai points a finger at the necromancer guy, and he gets wiped out just like the hero. The only one left is the chubby healer, who tries to heal his 2 buddies, but reviving or healing magic also doesn't work on people who have been targeted by Yogairai's power. After Mr. Fatso tells Yogairai how unfair his power is and that he might just be the most overpowered thing in the whole anime universe, and we should just end this anime recap right now, because Yogairai can just one-hit kill anything he wants to, Yogairai tells the snobby little dwarf that there is actually one thing in this world that can counter his instant ability, but it's definitely not going to be him. That's when he finally gives up and tries to be friends with Yogairai, and approaches him with friendly intent. But Yogairai knows when someone has intentions to kill him and explains how his other power is a special sense to know when someone wants to attack him. This makes the healer boy fall to the ground, and he begs the demon lord of this world to erase Yogairai as he's just too strong for anyone. After, Yogairai asks the little salad dodger nerd why he's so excited about this and what a demon lord even is. That's when the healer tells Yogairai that this is not the first time he was reincarnated into this world, and he explains how not long ago he and his 2 other friends were summoned here to the kingdom of a man to defeat the demon king, but they failed. So that's why they are sent back here again, but Yogairai has already eliminated his entire crew, so they're all doomed. However, Yogairai doesn't believe him as he never saw him and the others missing any school days, but the healer tells him that this is because in the magical realm, it seems they were here for months, but as they traveled back to Earth in the real world in Japan, it was only a few hours that they were gone. So that's why it seems like he's lying. However, Yogairai prepares to end this boy's whole career. But just then, the boy promises to be his loyal servant and guide him through this other world and help him find the demon lord. After that, he tells Tamacha that they will need to hunt down this demon king and end it off so he can go back to their world and he can finally relax in peace and chill with his video games and hot Cheetos watching anime recaps. However, Tamacha is surprised that Yogairai is helping her, and he tells the girl that he's only protecting her as he remembers the soft feeling of her chest when she tried waking him up on the bus, which makes her extremely mad as she thought he was just a nice guy without any other intentions. However, Yogairai loves big, juicy jugs, just like all of us, and is definitely a man of culture. On the other hand, we see Sajin squirming around her bed while waiting for her attendant Yoichi to come make a report to her. He explains that 4 people died in the first Sage test, including 2 unblessed people and 2 S-rank ability holders. This makes Sajin shocked for a moment, but she decides to procrastinate like y'all procrastinate your assignments, and says that it should be something worth worrying about before lying down once again. After that, Yogairai and Tamacha decide to go to the nearby city to see if they can meet up with their classmates. They arrive just before the city gates are being closed and manage to get in even though they don't know the language of this world. Soon, a senior officer walks up to them, and it turns out he can speak their language. Yogairai explains that they split from their group and are now looking to meet up with them. The stuck-up officer says that he has been ordered to not interfere with the Sage candidates, but there's nothing telling him to help them either. He says that their classmates have already moved on to their next destination, and that's all he is willing to offer them. But then he looks at Tamacha and says that only she can stay at his place for the night if she wants to, but Tamacha instantly grabs Yogairai's hand and runs away from there, saying no thanks. Yogairai asks her about what's up with her, and she says that she was worried he would send her to the underworld because of his rude behavior. Yogairai tells her to stop acting as if he is some kind of homicidal maniac, but she says that she is surprised that he doesn't know that he's exactly just that. With that, they start looking around at the structures and people of this fantasy world until they encounter a cute cat girl named Mew who offers to help them for free. They ask her why she is doing that, and she explains that her goal is to date a Sage candidate, and that's why she's trying to become friends with as many male candidates from the Sage exam as she can. She says that she heard they are prone to simp for cat girls like her and are usually really powerful and rich as well, so she is banking on her race and cute face. They decide to go along with her as she shows them around, and Tamacha ends up buying a bunch of clothes as well. But by nightfall, it ends up just as Yogairai expected, as they find out that the cat girl is actually part of a gang of bandits who surround them and plan to sell them off as stress relief slaves. After confirming that they're up to no good, Yogairai begins the slaughter by telling everyone behind him to die, and then starts picking off the ones in front of him one by testing his ability on them. He tests out if he can make certain body parts of them die only, instead of putting them down totally, and keeps doing it until only the cat girl and the leader of the bandits are left behind. After that, he tests some delayed functionality by telling them to die, and lets them run off for a little bit before the ability kicks in, and sends both of them to Hades as well. After taking care of them, they both decide to skedaddle out of there, but they get stopped by the knights in the area. Their captain, Edelgard, asks them what happened there, and reveals that they saw the men around them collapsing on the floor out of nowhere. Yogairai asks them why they didn't help if they were watching, and she reveals that they planned on following them once they got captured and tracking these goons to their base to capture their leader. She also tells them not to act big, as they are blessed with the Saint's protection, which makes them immune to attacks. Just then, her vice captain speaks up and says that, according to his appraisal skill, these two don't have any blessings from the Saintess. Hearing this, the captain says that it would be hard to believe they are responsible for these people collapsing and lets them go. The vice captain apologizes for causing them trouble and shows them a fancy hotel to stay the night at, to show his gratitude for forgiveness. At the hotel, Yogairai books 2 separate rooms for them, and once in the room, Tamacha wonders if Yogairai is interested in her romantically. Just then, she feels a cool breeze and looks up to find a fat floating ghost in the air. At first, this shocks Tamacha, but then she takes a closer look at the ghost's face and wonders if she is her elder sister. But the ghost speaks up and says that she is called Makoko, wife of the Dana School's founder's son and the distant ancestor of Tamacha. She further adds that she is her guardian spirit and is tasked with the duty of the restoration of the Dana School's dynasty. Tamacha asks why she didn't show herself earlier, to which Makoko replies that she was afraid of Yogairai, as she might have gotten obliterated if he got shocked and decided to get rid of her accidentally. She then asks Tamacha to explain her existence to Yogairai the next day, so she can show herself without worrying, and then tells her that she will protect her from supernatural threats, and that she is the one who protected her from getting that blessing from the Saintess as well, because once you accept it, you become a puppet to her. She further adds that her wish is for Tamacha to return to her real world, and to make that happen, she will pass on the secret techniques and abilities of her family to her, so she can fight on her own as well. The next morning, Tamacha walks down and meets up with Yogairai and asks him if they would be chasing after their classmates right away. Just then, the concierge walks up to them and introduces herself as Celestina. It turns out this hotel is a first-class establishment for rich people that takes care of anything and everything they request of them, as long as they can pay for it. Yogairai asks her for help with locating their classmates, and she gives them a map to the royal capital and 2 tickets for a train headed there. She says that, according to their information network, their classmates are making their way to the capital through the forest while slaying local monsters to grind some levels. Yogairai also gives her all of their gold and valuables to invest in some form of high-yielding accounts, and she prepares some items, including a charger for Yogairai's Switch and translations, to help them on their journey as well. After that, they board the train and head to the capital. On their way, Tamacha also tells Yogairai about Makoko, and they chill out. Tamacha eventually ends up sitting beside Yogairai while cranking his charger and wondering about their classmates when Yogairai suddenly grabs her and ducks down, as a powerful slash attack cuts the roof over their head in one go. The train conductor tells everyone to calm down and to make their way to safety as they spot a robotic alien called Aggressor who is invading their world, fighting a sage named Sanu. Their battle looks like something out of this world, with each of them throwing mountain-leveling attacks at each other. Tamacha asks Yogairai if he's going to put them both down as they came in his way, but he says that that's not a reason to kill someone. He says that he has to set up a clear standard so he doesn't end up killing innocent people for small things like annoying him and such, as that's unfair. Soon, the sage and the aggressor battle take them near Yogairai, and the sage, being the stuck-up piece of ass that he is, kills a lot of train passengers behind them, saying that they are just collateral damage to their fight, and that Yogairai and Tamacha should be bowing their heads down in front of his mighty sage ass. This annoys Yogairai enough to turn the sage's life switch off, and seeing this makes the aggressor really afraid of him. He completely surrenders in front of the OP protagonist and offers to help him in any way he can. Yogairai asks him about ways to return to his original world, and the robot says that he only knows how to go back to his own world and can't take him there because Yogairai is too dangerous for one, and secondly, the robot hasn't brought his real body here, so he can't take objects out of this world with him anyway. Besides that, he tells Yogairai that if he has enough mana and the right coordinates, then he can certainly go back to his real world. Yogairai says it's alright and tells him to guide him once he has the mana and coordinates, and the robot happily agrees to make the most out of it. Makoko also asks for a shape-changing gear weapon from the robot to help Tamacha with her fights. On the other hand, we see the knights in the city taking one of the goons, who lost his eyesight after Yogairai killed them, to an immortal vampire sage named Lane. She tries to heal the eye by reconstructing it from scratch, but it still doesn't restore its functionality. She also tries turning the goon into her underling by biting his neck, but that still doesn't work. Then, someone breaks into their room, and it turns out to be a hero who is supposed to be fighting monsters and aggressors. The hero always says that he must put an end to the tyranny of the sages, and uses his special attack called a plane and 2 towers to blow the whole place up, but it doesn't do any damage to the vampire sage, as she says that if it were to be so easy to end her life, things would have been so much better. Then, she says that she's too bored to deal with him, and simply kicks him out of her tower without killing him. After that, she tells the knights to follow Yogairai and find where he is, and then heads off to meet Sage Shin and talks to her about this instant death ability guy. Shin says that she would prefer if Lane didn't interfere with the Sage candidacy tests, but if she takes care of the calamity called Darkness for her, then she will allow it. Lane agrees and tells the captain of her underling army, called the Immortal Corps, Masayuki, to go to the city of Hanabusa, as she might need them there. Meanwhile, we see Yogairai and Tamacha making their way to the nearest city from their train wreck, which happens to be Hanabusa as well. It turns out to be a pretty modern city, with tall skyscrapers and construction resembling modern-day Japan. While walking through, Makoko notes that, instead of being protected by physical walls, the city is surrounded by a protective barrier that keeps monsters out. They soon reach the first-class hotel that Celestina recommended to them, and after walking inside, coincidentally meet up with one of their classmates named Yuki, who's now wearing some fantasy clothes. Tamacha asks him what he was doing there, as the others should still be in the forest working on their levels, but he says that he moves separately from them, as he has a far superior and more efficient way of leveling up. He then introduces his harem of bodyguards, consisting of 5 women whom he chose from his sea of girlfriends. Yogairai wonders what he was up to, and Tamacha explains that he has always been popular among girls due to his good looks, but there seems to be something more at play here. Just then, Yuki turns to her and asks her if she would like to be his mistress, making her so dry the Sahara Desert becomes jealous of her. She asks him what makes him so confident, and he explains that he has been blessed with one of the strongest classes in this world known as Dominator, which allows him to turn weak opponents into his servants. It turns out, when Yuki and the other classmates were together, grinding in the forest, everyone tried to avoid him due to his class. But then Aruto approached him and revealed that he is a consultant class. He tells him about the hidden details of his Dominator skill and suggests a plan that he found out after watching the Shield Hero anime. He tells him to buy up weak-level servants and then make them fight on his behalf to gain experience for leveling up. This pyramid scheme of a leveling idea resonated with him and his desire to have a harem of his own, and it led to this situation. After hearing him out, Tamacha rejects him and says that she would stay with Yogairai, and they both walk away. Meanwhile, we see the vampire sage Lane engaging in a battle with the aggressor called the Darkness. Yogairai decides to get some rest and ends up sleeping for 3 days straight, while Tamacha waits for him in her room for all this time. While doing that, Makoko tells her about someone keeping an eye on her with hostile intent, and she decides to wake Yogairai up and tells him to come to her room. Yogairai walks out and uses his hostility detection haki and then one-shots Yuki's weakest bodyguard, Erika, with his instant death ability. After that, he walks into Tamacha's room and tells the hotel's reception that a woman collapsed in the hallway on his floor. At the same time, we also see Lane's immortal core rampaging across the city's streets, riding over civilians and turning them into zombies, making them part of her army. Meanwhile, Yuki notices that Erika's signal has vanished, and he wonders what happened to her and sends 2 of his bodyguards to secure Tamacha while clearing a 150-floor deep dungeon by turning defeated monsters into his servants. On the other hand, Yogairai and Tamacha decide to get out of the hotel to avoid any fighting with Yuki, but they get ambushed by the captain of his bodyguards, Reza, the Ice Mage. She says that she is there to get Tamacha and freezes them both in rock-solid ice, but Yogairai kills the ice with his ability and makes it pathetically easy to shatter. This makes Reza shocked, and she tries to cast another spell, but Yogairai kills the spell and then kills her staff as well, making her fall on her knees. After defeating her, Yogairai asks if she can use magic without her wand and if there are any other wands that she is carrying on her. She says that she is a wand master and can only use magic through wands, and that she is only carrying a small spare one in her treasure chest. She also tells them about Yuki's orders to capture Tamacha. Just then, they get attacked by a doll that's crawling on the wall, but Tamacha puts it down using her martial arts skills, manifesting due to Makoko's influence. It turns out they're Yuki's other bodyguard, Chelsea's puppets, and Yogairai takes most of them down with his ability as well. Just then, Reza tries to get them by surprise using a small wand disguised as a hairpin, but Yogairai puts her down with his ability as well. After that, they walk out to make Chelsea stop fighting as well, and she gives up all the information she has about Yuki and his plan. Seeing Reza and Chelsea getting defeated, Yuki decides to lure them out using a fleet of cockroaches that he controls using his Dominator class ability and makes them attack the couple. But Yogairai uses his Wi-Fi observation haki to locate him and puts him down in the dungeon. On the other hand, we see Yuki's remaining bodyguards, Euphemia and Stephanie, wondering what they should do as they are now free from his contract. Stephanie decides to stay by Yuki's side and cry for a while, while Euphemia makes her way out of the dungeon and wonders why the entrance has so much light coming in. After walking out, she finds herself in a desert and then turns around to see the darkness engulfing the city and leaving only sand in its trail. She also finds Lane flying in the sky as she says that her attacks don't work on the formless darkness and that there is nothing that she can do now to stop it. She flies down and casts a charm spell on Euphemia, turns her into her servant, and makes Euphemia tell her everything she knows. Meanwhile, Yogairai and Tamacha make their way out of the hotel and wonder what was happening outside, as everyone around them has turned into a zombie and someone is shouting on the speaker that the zombie party is about to begin. They both decide to escape the city, while Lane tells Euphemia that she wants to know if Yogairai can kill her with his ability or not. At the same time, we see the captain of the Immortal Corps talking to the mayor of the city, named Ryuda, who turns out to be Lane's servant as well. Masayuki asks Ryuda to hand over the city's keys, as it is an order from the Sage Lane, and then he uses the public speakers to tell the living people of the city that he is looking for these 2 people, showing Yogairai and Tamacha's pictures on all the screens in the city. He tells them that if they want to live and not turn into zombies, then they should get their ass moving, as he has also sealed the town with a barrier using the key. This makes Ryuda really mad, as he has worked his butt off to make this city prosper, but he can't do anything against Lane's orders. Now, with everyone coming after Tamacha and Yogairai, they decide to head to the city square to make a deal with Masayuki himself. Once there, Yogairai tells him to lower the barrier, as they want to board a train and go to the royal capital. But Masayuki asks them if they even know what kind of situation they are in. While raising his army of undead soldiers, he says that those who are already dead cannot be killed. But Yogairai simply wills them to death, as well using his OP ability. This makes Masayuki really shocked, and he asks how that's possible. And Yogairai explains in the most Giga-Chad way that he is the one who decides if something is dead or not. Hearing this, Masayuki becomes enraged, and he says that there is no way such a ridiculous ability exists in this world, as he begins to transform into his vampire werewolf mode. But Yogairai simply puts him down in between his monologue transformation, saying that he doesn't need to wait for the cringiest loser in the anime to finish his lousy transformation. After that, he turns to Ryuta and asks him if he can make the barrier right again, and asks him why everyone after them. He explains that they were in the lands controlled by Sage Lion, and he doesn't know why she is interfering with Sage Shin's Sage candidacy test. Just then, they notice the people of the city walking towards them as if they have been possessed by something. Makoko says that it looks like they are being controlled using some sort of spiritual link, and Ryota says that if that's the case, he should be able to protect them using the city's barrier. But to his horror, the barrier doesn't work, and it looks like Lion is interfering with it herself. With this, the civilians start attacking Yogairai and start falling down around him like dead moths, as his ability automatically sends them to the underworld. Yogairai notices how seeing them die is pretty tough for the mayor and tells him to get close to him unless he wants to get hurt by them. He says that it feels like someone is trying to test the extent of his abilities and how something similar has happened to him in the past. At the same time, we see Lion looking over the city from afar alongside her newly acquired servant as the darkness gets closer to where Yogairai is. She creates a copy of herself without Yogairai's memories and tells her to go up in the sky and multiply, and then to attack the city if they see something unusual happening like the darkness attacking or suddenly vanishing. She says that as these copies have no memory of Yogairai, their attacks should not generate any kind of hostility towards him. And even if he finds them using his observation haki like he found Yuki, he should not be able to hurt her real body, as it is different from the clones. On the other hand, we see Yogairai and the others noticing the darkness getting close to them and turning everything it touches into sand. Everyone wonders how to deal with it, but Yogairai says that he will simply make it die using his ability and make the darkness vanish in a thin air. But suddenly red meteorite-like attacks start raining down from the sky and destroying the city. Tamacha uses her sharp eyesight and says that they look like a red-haired lady wearing a red dress. And Ryota confirms that it is Sage Lion and wonders why she is doing this and loses all respect for her. They wonder how to deal with this attack now, as Yogairai says that they are too fast for him to see to use his ability, and they also don't have any hostility that he can trace, but if they could get her to aim at him directly, he would be able to attack her back with his ability. Ryota suggests that they head to the open park area, which is most likely going to be attacked next according to the data he has been analyzing thanks to his bird's eye view skill that he got from being a mayor. He then teleports them to the park using his authority as the mayor of the city and vanishes moments before Lion's copy attacks them. Tamacha manages to spot it just in time for Yogairai to locate her and put her down using his ability. Tamacha also defends them against the blast using Makoko's powers and the shape-shifting material they got from the giant robot aggressor. On the other hand, we see Lion talking to Yu as she reveals that all of her puppets were defeated using Yogairai's ability. She says that now she just needs to create puppets with different memories, so he can't target them all at once. But to her surprise, her real body gets killed in her home, which leads to her total demise. Before falling down, she feels relieved as it will be her way of getting a new life using one of her experimental bodies that she created biologically without any memories of her. Just then, we see a young pink-haired girl waking up in a coffin somewhere in a mansion as she picks up a projection stone that has the last message of Lion recorded in it. The message tells her who she is and how she wants her to live her own life, and how she doesn't have any of her memories to prevent getting affected by Yogairai's ability. Back in the town, we see Eri and Tamacha returning to Ryota as they reveal that they defeated the sage and ask him if it bothers him at all. Ryota says that he has no respect for someone who harmed his precious civilians and gives them a military-grade car to travel to the royal capital. In the car, Tamacha asks Yogairai if he shouldn't be the one driving, but he says that he always ends up crashing the car while playing racing games, which makes Tamacha take up the steering herself. Makoko says that she should be able to drive and operate all sorts of vehicles and weapons thanks to her innate talent as the heir to the Dana school, which makes no sense to her, but she simply goes along with it. While all of this is happening, we get to see a small glimpse of what the other sage candidates are up to in the forest. The samurai class candidate named Rako finishes her monster slaying for the day and heads back to her camp, where she finds the American ninja class student Carol holding her phone in her hands. She asks her what she was doing in her camp with her phone, and she explains that she found it lost in the woods and was here to return it. She also reveals that she took the liberty of going through her applications to see what they were using to track Yogarai. It turns out they're both government spies from Japan and America, respectively, who joined Yogairai's class to keep an eye on him. The Americans have been using a satellite to keep an eye on him in the real world, but it has no use in this world, which is why Carol was looking at what the Japanese use, as they are the ones with physical custody of him. Rako opens up her application, and to her horror, an alert shows up saying that the first door of Alpha Omega is opening up. On the other side of the map, we see Tamacha driving like a panicked duck as she makes life-saving turns around the crazy mountain path to reach the capital. She eventually comes across a giant boulder in their way and decides to stop while looking at Yogairai, who is somehow sound asleep even with all of her screaming during this crazy ride. Just then, we get to see what Yogairai is dreaming about as we dive into a flashback from his childhood when this office lady first met him and gave him his name, Yogairai, and taught him how to shake hands with other people. This lady is called Asaka Takedo, and we see her signing an agreement form while giving an interview for a special job. The agreement says that she won't complain even if she dies during the course of her term. At first, she decides to walk away instead of signing her soul away, but the interviewer Yuko manages to convince her by telling her that she would get retirement benefits if she agrees to it. After signing the agreement, she asks if they are some kind of super secret evil organization or something, but the scientist says that they're a respectable association who conduct special human experiment for the betterment of their society. He then tells her that her job is to babysit a monster. She asks him what he was like, but Yuko says that he has never seen it himself, and all he knows is that it can kill anyone just by thinking. Its code name is Alpha Omega, and they reckon that by providing modern education and basic humanity to it, they might be able to prevent it from exterminating all life forms from the face of the planet. He tells her that she has her teacher's license, so she's just the right person for this. He then takes her to an underground chamber and tells her that he can't go beyond this line and that everything she might want to know regarding this job is written in this manual before skedaddling out of there. After getting everything she needs, she walks into the chamber and opens up the massive vault gate with her car key and finds out that she's in some kind of artificially created facility with a natural-looking sky and background scenery as well. She looks at the manual to find a house where this monster is supposed to be living, and after going inside, she only finds a young kid sitting in the living room. This makes her really angry, and she says that it's ridiculous to lock a kid in a place like this. She takes him out and tells him to play with the tadpoles or something, but the kid notices a shadow demon behind her and kills it using his powers. He tells her that these things sometimes come there to attack him, but they're nothing to worry about. Besides that, it's about to get dark, so if it's all right with her, he would like to play tomorrow instead of right now. Hearing all this calms Asaka down, and she shakes his hand and introduces herself by name. She asks for his name, and he says that they call him Alpha Omega here, and before he came there, they used to call him Lord Akashi. Just then, they both hear their tummies rumbling and decide to go inside and get something to eat. Asaka realizes that she will have to do the cooking as well, but being as good a chef as an idiot's sandwich, she ends up making some instant ramen while the kid takes a bath. During their meal, she asks him for the name that his mom used to call him by, but he doesn't know what that is, so she ends up naming him herself and gives him the name Yogarai Tako, which makes him really happy. She then teaches him how to introduce himself by shaking hands and saying nice to meet you. Just then, we see Eri getting woken up by Tamacha, who tells him that they have run into a dead end. They both decide to take some other route and back up, but the car runs into a small dragon on their way back. They both get out of the car, and Yogairai takes care of the monster before a fleet of dragons comes out of nowhere and starts flying towards him as well. Yogairai one-shots them all as well. And after that, they get to meet a golden lightning dragon who says that they pass and starts flying away, but Yogairai stops it and tells it to come back and to tell them what it meant by that, or else he will do some pest control on it as well. The dragon comes back and transforms into a little kid and explains that she was testing them to see if they were worthy of seeking the Swordmaster. They ask her who this Swordmaster was, which makes her surprised as she thinks that they were there to take the Swordmaster's test. They tell her that they were just on their way to the royal capital and got lost, to which she introduces herself as Attila and offers to help them if they agree to go see the Swordmaster with her. After agreeing, she takes them into a mystical forest where the Swordmaster is gathering all the test takers. There, they meet the old guy named UR, who announces that if in 10 minutes there's not half of them left there, all of them would fail, which marks the start of a massive battle royale. The first one to get sliced and diced is this unlucky loser, followed by a bunch of others, including a shady group of magicians that Yogairai sends to hell with his ability. They both also get defended by a righteous knight named Rick and manage to save the beta loser, who got cut in half, named Loney, thanks to a special stone called the Apology Stone that gives him random powers and buffs. After that, they all head to the next destination of the test, and Loney also explains that he got these stones from a goddess to make up for the bad luck he is suffering from. He says that he gets new stones every night, and these stones can be used to summon random items and effects through a gacha system. As they get close to their next destination, the miasma in the area starts getting lethally thicker, and even makes Loney vomit on the ground. But then Makoko notices that the miasma has suddenly disappeared, and she wonders what caused it while we see Yogairai acting weird. After that, they head up the tower, where UR shows them a giant sealing spell with the Dark King sealed inside it alongside the ancient sword master who ran her sword through both of them, while sealing them in this seal where time flows extremely slowly. UR explains that it is their duty as the sword master to defeat the Dark King once he is freed, but then a magician girl reveals herself and throws a massive fireball at the Dark King, saying she will defeat him once and for all, but the spell simply becomes stagnant in the time seal, and she realizes just how dumb she is. Rick tells Yogairai that the magician is called Frederica, and she is his friend who told him to take the Swordmaster's test in the first place. After that, the examiners tell everyone that they need to reach the bottom floor of the tower while defeating monsters and clearing different tasks to earn points. They need to earn 100 points within the next 24 hours and make it to the bottom of the tower as well to clear the test. Meanwhile, Tamacha looks down at the Dark King and asks Yogairai if he can kill him as well or not, and Yogairai tells her something which makes her really shocked. After hearing him out, they both decide to hurry down the tower and join up with Rick and Loney and make their way down. Thanks to everyone ahead of them, they get to walk through without worrying about a lot of monsters and traps, but Loney still manages to get himself killed from an arrow trap. His apology stones help him through it all, as usual, and they even run into one of the Knights of the Divine King, named Teresa, who is supposed to be UR's subordinate, but she has turned rogue after killing one too many people during the test, and is now on a killing spree. Rick struggles against her for a bit, and it looks like they're going to show us an epic battle, but Yogairai puts a stop to all of this using his ability and tells everyone to hurry on. After that, they reach the 998th floor, which turns out to be a safe zone with lots of rooms for the participants to rest in as well. They all decide to go their own ways from here. Rick decides to walk forward, Loney decides to rest till midnight to get new stones, while Tamacha and Yogairai decide to take a good nap. At midnight, Loney gets a special anniversary event drawn from his gacha system and manages to summon the goddess who called him to this world and gave him the apology stones. She says that she is there just to check on him and then takes her leave, while Yogairai and Tamacha simply fall asleep in the same bed. The next morning, when they wake up, they see Makoko half stuck in the wall, and she says that something is making all the souls in the tower get sucked up towards the top. Yogairai helps her out by killing the sucking mechanism, and then tells Tamacha to prepare herself, as from this point onwards, he would be killing everyone indiscriminately, as they are in a place of danger. She says that it's fine, and that she has already steeled her nerves, and that she isn't hypocritical enough to blame him while he is doing it to save her. Hearing this makes Yogairai really happy inwardly, and he becomes all shy and red and says that he's hungry, and they order some room service for their meal. On the other hand, we see a sage named AI fighting against another summoned sage named Rudo, who abandoned his duties as a sage after coming to this world and established a community of Beacon in the forest, deciding to live there peacefully. AI's job is to assassinate sages and sage candidates who have forsaken their duties and possess the power called Just World, which allows her to manipulate the powers given to herself and others by God to the highest degree. She kills Rudo, and her dagger tells her that her next targets are the sage candidates Yogairai and Tamacha, instructing her to head towards them. On her way, she ends up being chased by a fat man who turns out to be none other than Damon, who has been wandering in the forest since episode 1, following Yogairai's commands. He seems to have gotten rid of his servant collar somehow, and reveals that he was taken in by Rudo. But now that Rudo is dead, he wants to follow AI and begs her to let him become her slave. With that, they both head towards Yogairai's place and run into the golden dragon from earlier. Damon worries that AI won't be able to beat the dragon, as her ability allows her to only deal with the cheat skills the other worlders receive. But she says that she can interfere with any natural phenomenon and make it just like she believes it to be, though it doesn't work if her target has a high enough luxta. She then makes the dragon unable to fly because it's too big, and before she could do much else, an aggressor by the name of Hedgehog appears on the spot and kills the dragon with its sharp leg. After that, it vanishes back into the distance while showing the way to the Swordmaster's tower to AI. Meanwhile, Yogairai and Tamacha make it through almost half of the tower until they run into a silver-haired guy who accuses them of cheating. The guy introduces himself as Glacio, the creator of the tower, and tells Yogairai that he feels sad because he has been bypassing all of his traps by killing them using his ability. He says that Yogairai is too dangerous to be left alone and starts preparing a big spell while saying that he's going to give him a choice. But Yogairai sends him to the other world, saying he's in a hurry. After that, they go to the next area, where they find another Dominator using his harem of girls to fight another test taker who turns out to be a half-demon like Euphemia. Yogairai asks for permission to pass by, as he's not interested in fighting, but the Dominator says that he will let them through if they defeat his bodyguards in a 3 versus 3 battle. Yogairai accepts and no-shots them all with his ability and start walking forward, but this makes the Dominator really mad, and he tries to stand up to cast a spell, but Yogairai puts him down just as fast, calling him a liar. Seeing all this, the half-demon girl says that she has a request to make of him, and they decide to at least hear her out. The girl introduces herself as Thea and explains that she is looking for her younger sister. She says that she came here because she heard that some of her people were trapped here, and helping her might come off as being against the Swordmaster. Yogairai says that he has already made a mess out of the tower, so the Swordmaster won't really be fond of him anyway, so he has no issues with helping her out. He then asks her if she has any clues about where her people could be, and she says that she can feel their presence, and it seems like they're somewhere underground. Just then, Rick, Frederica, and Lionel walk into the arena as well, and it turns out Rick and Frederica were helping Lionel gain some points because he is a __ loser. After that, they all reach the bottom floor, where Europe announces that they have all passed the test and have now become the Knights of the Divine King. Just then, the tower's maintainers walk in and tell them that the first barrier around the Dark King has been undone, and for some reason the tower isn't working anymore. This shocks Europe, and he wonders what happened, but then someone suddenly destroys the whole tower above them with a blast and reveals himself to be a high-class demon who is accompanied by another of his kind. Their goal seems to be the resurrection of the Dark King, and they prepare to fight Europe and his knights. The demon seems to possess the power to turn off the humans around him, while the other one seems to be too proficient in magic, as he blocks Frederica's fire magic with his bare hands, and then turns her staff alongside her arm into a biscuit and gives her a taste, saying she's pretty sweet. Frederica wonders if she will now become a red-haired emperor of the sea, but quickly remembers that she is just a side character for this minor arc. Seeing all this, Lionel decides to use the remaining limited edition gacha roll and uses all of his apology stones to summon some sort of miracle that would help them deal with the demons. But it ends up summoning the goddess from earlier, much to his horror. He asks her if she would vanish again, but she says that this time she will grant his wish of taking care of everything, and then walks up to the demons. And to everyone's surprise, they both bow down in front of her and reveal that she is actually the wife of the Dark King. She has been summoning and manipulating heroes to release her husband from the seal, but always failed due to the Swordmaster. However, thanks to this unlucky piece of garbage named Lionel, she managed to get rid of the barriers this time. Lionel asks her if she was lying about taking care of everything and granting his wish, and she says that she didn't lie and that she will take care of them all by destroying all of humanity, thus leaving nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Yogairai, Tamacha, and Thea decide to go underground to find her people, and thanks to Yogairai's powers, they manage to kill the time-space barrier that is hiding the bottom floor. Tamacha also notices some high-speed robots zoom past them with some blades, but they decide to ignore it and focus on the underground room in front of them. Once inside, they find a room full of fluid chambers with Thea's people being used as guinea pigs for horrible experiments, and to use their magic to support the barrier around the Dark King. Thea decides to put an end to their misery with her own hands, and then resolves to take revenge on the Swordmaster. With that, they all head back up to see what was going on. On the other hand, we see Lionel trying to stall the goddess to create an opportunity for the Swordmaster to slay her. While doing so, he makes the goddess reveal that she had been waiting for all sorts of obstacles to get out of her way, including the creator of the tower, Yuar, as he would have been able to restore the barrier instantly. Besides that, she was also worried about the goddess killer who, somehow, suddenly died during the test. and now she's able to break the barrier to release her husband. With that, she destroys the barrier's core and releases the Divine King and the Dark King from their time seal. But to everyone's surprise, the Dark King simply falls down into the river with his dead ass and drowns away. They all wonder how this could have happened while we find out that it was Yogairai doing and that he accidentally killed the Dark King in response to the high-density miasma in the region that was about to harm him. Just then, Thea takes advantage of all the confusion and slices the Swordmaster in half, taking her revenge. This makes Rick and the others really surprised, and they wonder if she is an enemy. At the same time, the high-speed robotic aggressor Hedgehog also appears in the battle zone and assassinates the goddess and zooms away. The two demons who started all this heal her back to full health and rally their forces to attack humans to take revenge for killing their king. But Yogairai simply no-shots them all with his ability and tells them that he doesn't want any drama. The whole thing makes the goddess lose her mind, and she starts firing random abilities in all directions. Tamacha asks Yogairai if he is going to do anything about her, but he says that the goddess didn't do anything to him, so he has no reason to fight her. On the other hand, we see AI dragging Damon towards the tower as she dodges all the random attacks using her absurd ability. Once she arrives there, she uses her appraisal skill to tell Rick that he can put the goddess down using his holy sword, which he does, and then turns towards Yogairai and Tamacha to see what they were all about. Before fighting them, she uses her eye on Yogairai to check his stats, but it shows her the end of everything in him, and this makes her sweat her soul out as she decides to eat her ass out of there before handing Damon over to Yogairai. Yogairai wonders what she was all about, but then turns to Damon and asks him how he managed to get out of his collar. He says that he never said that its effect was permanent and apologizes for deceiving them. After that, Rick talks to them about Thea and what she did, and Yogairai tells him to see what they found in the basement, and if he still decides to fight them, then he will help Thea. Rick asks him what he can do with his tiny stick, but the Divine King stops him and tells him that it was actually Yogairai who put down the Dark King and all the demons around them, which makes Rick really surprised as he apologizes for his rude behavior. After that, they all decide to part ways. Rick, Frederica, Lionel, and the Divine King go to the royal capital, while Yogairai and Tamacha decide to go there on their own as well. Thea reveals the name of her younger sister, who turns out to be Euphemia, and Yogairai and Tamacha tell her that they heard this name while walking through one of the cities on their way and tell her about the routes they took before leaving. Rick also gives them a couple of pendants with the emblem of the Royal Knights and says that they should show these to the guards in the capital if they ever need his help. With this, Yogairai and Tamacha start their journey towards the capital while leaving Damon to his wits. But unfortunately for him, he ends up getting approached by one of the demons that attacked the tower and is told to follow him. While all of this is happening, we see Shin sipping on some sweet tea as her knight reports to her about AI and Yogairai. She says that she shouldn't interfere with the sage candidates and decides to summon someone from Yogairai's world to ask them about him. The summoned guy turns out to be one of the Japanese scientists who are keeping a watch over him. And when he finds out that she is the one who made Alpha Omega disappear from their world, he calls her a savior and thanks her. But then he notices a warning on his device, which says that, as a C-level employee, he is not allowed to be this close to Alpha Omega, and it makes him self-destruct into a pile of pizza sauce right in front of the sage. On the other side of the map, back to where the bus was attacked by the dragon, we see Asaka suddenly gaining consciousness as she gets brought back to life by some form of sentient AI. The AI tells her that she needs to acquire a huge amount of nutrition to initiate her recovery, or else she would end up dead in 30 minutes. Asaka decides to munch on some delicious rotten dragon ass, and let's talk more about that in the comments. Meanwhile, Yogairai and Tamacha arrive at the royal capital and get stopped by the royal knights, who tell them to get out of their car and show their IDs. They explain that they got the car from the mayor of Hanabusa City and that they are sage candidates who are there for a trial. The guard checks them out using an appraisal tool, but Yogairai shows them the pendant that Rick gave them, and it makes all of them get on their knees. They explain that it is the mark of the royal family and gives them the pass to enter the city. Just then, the youngest prince, David, arrives on the scene and demands that they show him their swords as the knights of the Divine King, and Tamacha ends up accepting his challenge to a duel when they fail to show him any swords. In the duel, she showcases the martial art of her family and ends up freeing David's future generations from the pain of getting born. Getting hit in his precious eggs turns David into a gentleman as he offers to give them a tour of the city. He explains how the city walls were created thousands of years ago by the great sage Aga, the same guy who created that tower. He also tells them that the royal capital is built upon an underground barrier that seals a dark lord, much like the tower of the Swordmaster, which surprises Yogairai and Tamacha, as they didn't expect there to be more than one Dark Lord. After that, Yogairai asks Tamacha if they will forgive their classmates or should they take revenge on them, and Tamacha decides to first meet them and see what kind of attitude they take up with them. With that, they join their classmates at the royal palace as they all meet the king. The three perverts from the class, known now as the three pervy beta lords, decide to exert their dominance by revealing that one of them has the ability to stop time as he approaches the king and acts rudely towards him. But the king cuts off his fingers and reveals that their powers get significantly weak if they try to fight anyone related to the royal family, and that they have been granted the protection of the sages. After that, he sits back down on his throne and says that to become sages, they must accomplish a great achievement in 1 month or else they will all fail. After the king walks away, Tamacha and Yogairai make their presence known officially. They all talk it out, and eventually, Yogairai and Tamacha agree to join them without any violence. They make up a cover story that Yogairai got the skill to kill insects instantly, and Tamacha got the skill to create special armor that only works on herself. And thanks to these skills, they managed to escape from the dragon. The class captain says that he still believes they did the right thing by leaving them behind as bait, as the survival of many was his priority. With all of that out of the way, they all start wondering about ways to pass the sage exam and eventually end up getting help from the royal family that suggests they go down into the underground dungeon and defeat the Dark Lord as their accomplishment. With this, all of them form groups and go underground, led by David and Rick, who eventually arrive at the royal capital with the Divine King as well. While Tamacha is busy busting her ass off in the underground dungeon, Yogairai joins the group of losers in their class, including 2 other guys, one with the ability to cook and the other with the ability to read anything. Soon, another guy named Sii joins them, who has an ability called Death God, which is pretty similar to Yogairai's ability of instantly killing the target, but is an inferior version of Yogairai's power. The guy sits down in front of Yogairai and reveals that he is with the cult, which is yet another organization that hails him as the god of death and is also the one that refers to him as Lord Akashi. The guy says that he had been keeping an eye on him using his mechanical eye, but it stopped working since they came to this world. He then walks away, saying he will be happy to serve him if he needs his help. After that, the other 2 spies also make contact with Yogairai and Tamacha and apologize to him for deceiving him all this time. Yogairai says that he doesn't mind as long as they don't cause him any trouble and lets them focus on their survival in this new world, saying that he wants to meet the sage Shin as she might know of a way to get back to their world. While all of this is happening, we find out that Euphemia got to meet up with Lion's new body and decides to serve her. The new body names herself Relay and takes Euphemia along with her on a journey to find a guy named Yogairai. Besides that, Shin goes to CI in the Sage World and finds out that she is suffering from PTSD after looking at Yogairai. She becomes worried and says that she needs to get more information on what he actually is and decides to go meet his classmates. At the same time, the Demon Spawn Loot teams up with Damon, as he knows about Yogairai, and takes him to the royal capital to unseal the younger and much stronger sister of the late Dark King, who is residing under the royal capital. Once they get inside the city, they go to a tavern and try to gather information on ways to get into the underground dungeon, but then they see the 3 pervy idiots there, and Damon says that he has to avoid getting found out by them or it will be troublesome. Just then, Asaka suddenly flies into the tavern and starts beating one of the idiots until he's turned into tomato sauce. She tells the other 2 to go back and tell everyone that she will not forgive them, and that she will take her revenge in front of them for leaving her behind as bait. Seeing all this makes Damon really worried as well, but then Shin appears in front of them and asks Damon about Yogairai. He says that he doesn't know much about him, but gets the information about the entrance to the underground dungeon from her. Shin says that it will be fun to watch what they do, and then walks back to her Sage World. There, at night, while talking to her servant, she gets an unexpected guest who turns out to be Herod, the analyst from the Sage candidates. He tells Shin that he found his way to her room using his problem-solving skills, and then requests her to extend the deadline on their exam. Shin says that she will consider it in exchange for him taking care of Yogairai, to which he smiles and agrees. After this, Herod goes back and hires an assassin with sage and spirit powers and tells him to kill Yogairai. On the other hand, the other sage candidates become worried for their lives as they fear Asaka coming after them. One of them, named Riona, who has the ability to enhance her strength, finds Asaka and tries to snipe her down with high-speed rocks, but Asaka tanks it like the Jigachad she is and goes on a fight with her. She single-handedly destroys her ass and soul, but Riona says that she isn't at her full power because of that stupid king-suppressing quirk that's active throughout the royal capital. Hearing this, Asaka lets Riona go to heal herself and flies away to burn the king's royal __ to ashes. After taking care of him, she returns to fight Riona at full power and proceeds to utterly destroy her once again. The next night, She fights the cook loser, who somehow manages to actually give her an actual fight as he extrapolates his power by assuming her to be an ingredient, and then uses his chef status to fight her using a kitchen knife in a shadow clone jutsu, saying that it is an essential skill for a cook as they often need many hands to keep the kitchen moving. But even after all of this, Asaka ends up making roasted barbecue out of him using her draconic flames. Meanwhile, we find out that the reader guy actually has the ability to see the future, which writes itself in his notebook as soon as he makes a choice. While all of this is happening, Damon and Luke go down to the underground dungeon and find out that the Dark King's sister managed to break the seal on her own, but decided to stay there to avoid making her brother mad. She suffers from a severe brother complex and loves him a lot, which makes her be good to Lute and Damon as well when they bring her brother's key to her. But when Lute tells her that her brother is dead and who did it, it makes her really mad. She takes both his arms and says that she will revive her brother and starts engulfing everything around her using her spell. On the other hand, we see Shin arriving in the dining hall to meet the sage candidates after Herod gets an extension from her. She tells everyone that she is not happy with how the sage exam is turning out and thinks that it is too easy. So she wants them all to fight each other until only one of them is left, and that person would be the only one to become the sage. This marks the beginning of the battle royale as the Death God ability guy tries to use it on her, but she says that it doesn't work on her as she completely heals herself with a level up and then knocks him out with a flick of her fingers. Meanwhile, Yogairai is chilling outside, and he notices David sleepwalking as if he is under some kind of spell and watches him jump into a ravine. He tries to help him and ends up falling down with him underground. The Dark King's sister, named Mana, turns into her liquid mana form and starts taking over everything in her sight as she gushes out of the royal capital with extreme force. While falling, Yogairai saves himself and David by killing their momentum using his ability and then meets up with Damon, who is running away from Mana for his life as well. They all end up catching an elevator that takes them back up, and once there, Yogairai goes to meet up with Tamacha to find out what was happening. She tells him about the battle royale, and they end up fighting a bunch of their classmates as well. Meanwhile, Asaka decides that it is a great day to take her revenge and joins the battle royale too. She ends up fighting a girl who has the power to summon all sorts of modern weapons, and when she starts losing the battle, she summons a nuclear bomb like a sore loser and drops it on Asaka. The explosion destroys everything around it and also takes Yogairai and the others in its effect, but Yogairai saves them all by killing the laws of physics because why not? Asaka manages to survive the explosion by giving up her human form and permanently transforming into her dragon form. Once healed up, she decides to make sure that everyone is dead and finds Yogairai and the others alive in the middle of a flaming zone. The AI in her brain starts speaking up. It turns out that it is technology from the future specifically developed to counter the instant death ability of Yogairai by becoming undetectable to him. This effect works to a certain extent, but Yogairai simply kills Asaka as well when he sees the massive dragon approaching them. After that, Shin arrives in front of them and says that she had been wanting to talk to Yogairai as she heard that he's going to wipe her out. Just then, Yogairai uses his ability to kill one of her ankles and then starts off by killing her fingers and showing her who the real boss is. He then asks her to tell him about ways to get back to their old world, but she simply teleports back to her sage world and tries to heal herself. All of her attempts fail and make her worried, but Yogairai starts killing more of her parts and even starts attacking her beloved servant, Di. This makes Shin give up, and she comes back to him and explains that there is no way for them to return as the link between their worlds has already vanished. Hearing this, Yogairai tells her to give him the coordinates of their old world and also asks her for ways to gather the necessary mana. She takes out a philosopher's stone from her chest and says that it is the source of immortality for the sages and should be enough to power their journey if they collect enough of them. All the sages have them, but the stone loses its power if a sage dies. Hearing this, Yogairai decides to let her leave and goes back to the royal palace with Tamacha, Damon, and the two spies, including Prince David. Once they are gone, Mana materializes in front of Shin and captures her using her powers, absorbing her into herself while calling her a pathetic loser of a saint. Shin tells her to remember the name of the person who will kill her, referring to Yogairai, before drowning in her. On the other hand, Yogairai and the others walk into the castle and find the Archbishop blabbering something about starting his villain arc and being happy about the awakening of Mana. But Yogairai shuts him up with his ability because he's too annoying. Just then, Mana materializes in front of them and says that she will destroy them as well, but Yogairai shuts her up too, ending the final boss fight in a second. With the kingdom now saved, David flies out of the castle on a ship with the spies while Yogairai follows behind, clinging to Tamacha, who glides down like a sexy Batwoman. Once outside, they notice that Damon has escaped yet again, and Yogairai says that it's fine as he didn't like his face being around anyway. After that, he says that he will now go look for the other Philosopher's Stones, so he and Tamacha can return to their world, and decides to split up from the rest of them. The spies agree to walk their own paths as well, and decide to go along with David. At the same time, a couple of aggressors fly down into the capital to see Mana's destruction and find a hurt Herod in the mess. They decide to take him with them and fly away. While all of this happens in the royal capital, we get to see a little bit of Thea, who ended up meeting again with her sister while saving some of her people from slave traders. There, she joins her sister in Relay and starts heading towards the royal capital because the little pink-haired girl wants to meet Yogairai. They arrive just in time to see Yogairai and Tamacha deciding to go out and look for the other Philosopher's Stones. Seeing them, Relay jumps out and hugs Yogairai, saying that she wants him to marry her while offering him her Philosopher's Stone. Yogairai wonders what all this is about, and Thea fills him in on how Relay is obsessed with him because she learned about him from her old self after waking up. With that, they all get inside Relay's carriage and ride away towards their next destination while Yogairai decides to take a nap. Meanwhile, we see the Divine King watching over the capital from a tower as she wonders how someone could defeat Mana so easily and decides that it is too dangerous to let someone like Yogairai roam around the world like this and starts following him.